hello, butterflies. Thank you for joining us for our Halloween special in Lupus Glitter. I hope that you have your costumes ready. However, with it being the season of Halloween and all the deadly nightshades, I suggest that you have some hot chocolate. So I would love to introduce you to my beautiful friend Katie, who is not only an educator but also an autoimmune activist. Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So, me and Katie were having an interesting conversation the other day, and I really wanted to include all of you guys in this about the deadly nightshades. So, we're going to be talking about what the deadly nightshades are and how they can cause inflammation and autoimmune conditions. So there's a few, and this was very interesting to me. I didn't really understand completely if they were like grown in the dark or what the difference was or what makes these fruits and vegetables cause inflammation. So Katie's going to be kind of talking to us about that. So what are the deadly nightshades?
Well, the nightshade group of plants is a family of plants, and the similarity between them is they all contain certain alkaloid compounds, which is the main similarity between them because they are very different. You wouldn't think that they would be related or in the same vegetable family, but it is that alkaloid compound that they all have in common. And that is one of the things that can be attributed to an increase of systemic inflammation, especially in autoimmune patients.
Yeah.
And I find this so interesting because I had never heard of this. I think that we've all kind of heard about the deadly nightshades through Nightmare Before Christmas, and we all know that there are certain fruits and vegetables that are not going to serve our body as far as inflammation goes. But to find out that there is just this certain bracket of deadly nightshades, we had to do a Halloween special for you guys. And yes, it's scary, it's creepy. But we're going to be showing you today some alternatives to get those same nutrients while avoiding any type of fruits and vegetables that could cause your inflammation and trigger a possible flare. So let's just kind of go through what those deadly nightshades are, and we'll just kind of open up for commentary and different reactions that many people in the lupus community have faced eating these vegetables. So what are the deadly nightshades and which ones are known to cause inflammation within that family?
Yeah. Are there any specific ones that you've noticed, anything that you've noticed like a flare or something where it made you sick?
So the main ones in the nightshade family apparently are tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and bell peppers.
Yeah. And I love potatoes, so that's a problem for me in the South, but yeah.
Right. And she was saying that like you could use sweet potato as like an alternative to that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not quite the same, but yeah.
I did want to add too that there are several people that can eat these with no negative incidents, no negative effects. A lot of the information is anecdotal. Me personally, when I cut them out, I was having pretty bad psoriatic arthritis flares. And one of the changes I made was to cut this out, and I noticed that those did go away. So for me, this is an effective tool to manage that. Some people can enjoy them with no problem, so it's not an end all be all. Just some suggestions for you to try out.
So as far as the deadly nightshades go, do they like grow in the dark or like what are they?
Well, it doesn't really have to do with how they grow or where they grow. It is kind of the metabolic process and how they grow, and it produces certain chemicals called alkaloids that are present in the fruit or vegetable, and that is what has been linked to the triggers of inflammation. So basically, I mean, a potato and a tomato, you're not going to think that they're in the same family. They are so different. Like one is a tuber and one is a fruit, but they are under that umbrella. of nightshades, which tobacco is as well. Even though we don't eat that, it's one that we consume. Not we, but people
People,
consume.
yeah.
And it definitely has the negative effects as well. But that is another one of the nightshade vegetables or
Wow.
plants.
Yeah,
So
and
when
I'm
we,
going. Go ahead.
so when we were talking about bell peppers the other day, you were saying that the green one was the most concentrated with inflammatory properties compared to the other ones, although we kind of want to get away from all of them if we possibly can.
Yes. Yeah, the green bell peppers definitely have the more concentrated amount of the alkaloid, and then the orange, and then the red is the most mild. And I found that in my diet, I can't enjoy the red bell peppers without much effect. So,
And then how are the
but
yellows?
green, I don't eat the green ones.
Okay, so green being the most concentrated, red being more
I
yellow.
right. It would be green, yellow, orange, then red. So basically, the more vibrant the color, the less of that chemical is going to be present.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
I'm glad you said that, what you said, because it is what you said is very true, that like certain people can have certain things and it not be as aggressive in their body and they can eat it. And then there'll be times where you've been eating certain things and then all of a sudden they'll be like, suddenly you're allergic, but maybe it was possibly you build immunity over time, or it's just a part of the process. With like how medicine is that we take for a period of time, and it's like
Yeah.
suddenly you can't take it anymore. So I
Right.
thought that was really good to highlight that point, because I know for me, I did do some research, and one of the things I found out about was like you were saying about tomatoes, but it was a lot of it I didn't really eat anyway, so it was okay. But it was like, okay, this just drew attention to more stuff that I have to take into consideration and the impact. And when I started feeling sick, like, well, what did I eat today? And that made me
Right.
do what you said, just to look like, okay, well, is this harmful to me as a lupus person, a person who has lupus? And so I did discover. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as I'm sure you're aware, as part of the process, it is also kind of important to gradually do the eliminations. You don't want to do
Yeah.
all at once, because then you can't pinpoint, is it the tomatoes or are potatoes worse? You kind of want to go one by one and see how you feel with each. And then you can have a better understanding of what is going to be more beneficial for you to eliminate. But you don't want to just out the bat not do all of them, because then you might be missing out on something that you can enjoy.
Absolutely, because when I was diagnosed with lupus, my doctor basically started giving me a list of things that I shouldn't eat. And I was just like, well, what the hell? Excuse me. What am I going to eat if I can't eat anything? I mean, so you basically telling me, what am I going to eat? It's like, well, you shouldn't eat this and you shouldn't eat that. And it was just like, after a minute, it was just going over my head. I zoned out, literally. So I think what you said is very good. Like if you've been, especially, I would say, especially someone newly diagnosed, they would have no idea. They just, it's kind of something that just popped up. So they've been eating a certain way for a long period of time. So they wouldn't necessarily know, that certain things may make them flare or may cause edema and swelling and that kind of thing. They wouldn't really know. And so what you said, that's perfect. I think that's great advice.
And one of the things that we always talk about in Lupus Glitter is like when you're first newly getting diagnosed, and even when you've felt some change in your lupus, you should definitely keep a food diary and just kind of log like what you're eating, what effects you're having. And maybe like you ate bell peppers 2 days ago, but you're just now having effect today. You can look back in that food diary and just kind of see, well, I have had bell peppers in the last day and a half. This could possibly be it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's very true, because even when you go to the doctor, if you're in the middle of a flare, they'll ask you something like, have you done anything different? Have you used any new products? Have you eaten some new food? I mean, and in the back of your mind, you kind of like, well, that's an odd question, but then it makes sense though, because if you've done something different than you normally do, it could be a possible link. So definitely, I think that's great advice as well.
So, what are some of the alternatives that we could consume to get these same nutrients without getting the inflammation that we know with lupus conditions? Inflammation is our enemy. That's what we're constantly trying to take down. Like with the skincare that I created for the autoimmune rash, inflammation, the body turmeric, like inflammation. So, what are some alternatives to get those same vitamins? Just like we've been talking this week about how to replace vitamin D as lupus conditions cannot be around the sun. It is the worst thing. I was talking to Delibra about this today. It is the worst.
Yeah.
Delibra cannot personally be out in the sun for more than 10 minutes before she is in a full flame. So how can we still get
Yeah.
vitamin D and get all these vitamins without consuming things that are going to cause us inflammation ultimately? And I mean, the food diary
That's a
helps
super,
for that.
What were you gonna say?
oh,
I was gonna.
I
I
was,
was. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
I'm
Go
getting
ahead.
like feedback from my computer. Um,
Oh yeah.
a lot of these fruits and vegetables do have the vitamins and minerals that are anti-inflammatory as well. So it is kind of a catch-22. But I do have a list of the main anti-inflammatory nutrients for each of the four, and then a couple alternatives so you can still get that same nutrient. But a trick before I forget, based on what you were just talking
And
about,
I.
having to avoid the sun, if you do have something with vitamin D in it, you always going to want to consume it with something with fat, and that the fat is going to help your body absorb the vitamin D better. If that's a nutrient that you're particularly,
Yeah.
not going to be exposed to, you can't go out in the sun, you might have difficulties getting that. So just a little helpful hint: if you have your
Yeah.
vitamin D, always have something with fat with it.
So Delibra's been eating a lot of bananas lately, you guys, because she was told by her doctor that that would kind of replace the fact that she didn't have that much vitamin D and she was a little bit insufficient in her
Yes.
symptoms right now. So I
Yeah.
found that very interesting.
Yeah. So, and I am one of the people that I can actually drink orange juice, because some people can't even do oranges with their immune system with lupus, because it's another thing. Like lupus is overactive immune system. So when you take anything that kind of boosts your immune system, it's like it's fighting, it's like in conflict. So, but
Yeah.
I've been one of
Right.
the people so far, knock on wood, because it could change. It sometimes does change. That I've been able to have orange juice and bananas and those kind of things, because I was also, when hospitalized, I was really low in potassium. So if anybody know what potassium pills, those pills are huge and they are salty like
Yeah.
eating
They're
grain.
nasty. They are
Saying, oh, they're horrible.
nasty.
So
Yeah.
when they told me, that I could do bananas, I was like, okay. And I didn't have any problems with those, but some people can't do them and they do have to do the potassium or something else or a substitute. But what you said was important. Take a note of what works for you. Do it. You can do elimination and you can see what works for you, because some people may not be able to do bananas, but some people may, and some people may have to do the alternative or
Yeah.
find another food source that offers what they need.
All right. So like what would be a good
Unfortunately, my battery's going kind of quickly. So before my computer shuts down, which it
all right,
might,
so tomatoes,
um,
tomatoes.
I
What's an
can go.
alternative
I'm
to
gonna
tomato?
go. Okay, so main thing in tomato is potassium, like what you were just saying, and a great source of potassium as well that's going to have that fat in it is avocado.
I like avocado.
Bell peppers.
Avocado, also squash, and lentils, all going to supply the potassium you might need. Another thing that's in tomatoes not in a lot of other things that is anti-inflammatory, called lycopene. That
Mm-hmm.
is, oh, this is another tomato one. And that's in tomatoes and not a lot of other things, but you can get it in grapes, melons, and apricots.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys, every single time that we do a show, there are going to be some technical difficulties. I mean, it happens every single show. So we just work through them. And so what she was saying
Absolutely.
is that no matter what, like for you to avoid these foods, it doesn't mean that you're going to rob your diet. Like we can find these things in spices. And then there's also a lot of different alternatives that can
Yeah.
kind of replace those nutrients and to avoid these like 5 fruits and vegetables just in general. And again, like take a food diary. If bell peppers don't bother you at all, then they don't, and you're free to live them and love them. But if they do, you definitely want to take note of these things because over time, whenever you're like battling lupus, you want to know what these things are that trigger your body and what trigger your inflammation. And at the end of the day, one person will be able to do tomatoes, one person will not be able to do bell peppers whatsoever. But there are, and her computer died, but we so appreciate that she took this time out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A teacher, an activist for autoimmune conditions, and she has one. It's not lupus, but I welcome everyone into this family in Lupus Glitter. If you have an autoimmune disease or you're an advocate, no matter what, you're free to speak. So there are so many vegetables that are known to cause inflammation, and that's why this holiday special, Halloween special, was about inflammation, aggravating vegetables and fruits that are grown basically in the night. So I
Absolutely.
felt like this was an amazing way for us to show you different alternatives and also suggest that you do take your health very seriously and take a food journal. And like if you ate it 2 days ago and you don't remember, at least you can look back through the log and just say like, well, I mean, I have had eggplant in the last 2 days. I have
Yeah.
had some potato. Could it possibly be? And then what are those? It's almost like an elimination diet. What are those alternatives that we could possibly use and possess? And we'll clearly do a follow-up show to this just to kind of like really solidify what the alternatives are. But Delibra, what are the things that like bother you having lupus? Do you have certain food groups or vegetables, fruits that you can't eat? For me, it's tomatoes. All day it's tomatoes. And I love them, so it sucks.
I love broccoli, and I've been able to eat a lot of broccoli. It has a lot of vitamin D, has a lot of nutrients that are good for your body.
Oh, vitamin D, we need that, you guys, if we can't go in the sun. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one of my horror stories. I didn't even think it was significant. I love salads, so I thought I was doing something really great. I had a wonderful salad. It was amazing, I must say that. And so I really enjoyed it, and I posted a picture on Facebook, and like the Facebook community of Lupus Warriors came on me. And they was just like,
really?
that has Brussels sprouts in it. You're not supposed to eat that. And I was like, I ate it and I felt absolutely fine. And then I started noticing that I started getting really itchy. And I actually broke out in hives that exact same day. And I had to make an appointment. And I'm silly because I did it again. I'll be honest, I did it more than once because
Well, I mean, tomatoes are amazing. Like, how can you like, so lidocaine, like it's good for your skin. They're great in salads. Like they're in pasta. How can you say no to a tomato? But my theory is I feel like once you've boiled a tomato and you've cooked out some of that acidity, and I believe that Katie was kind of speaking on alkaloids, which are very new to me. I don't know
Yeah.
about alkaloids, but I would, in my mind's eye, I would definitely think that they had something to do with like the acidity and like the pungence of the fruit.
Right. Yeah.
So I bet you that like once they boil down, some of that goes away, just like with onions. And then what are these alternatives? So like we've been talking a lot to Libra today, and like you were saying that like with the sun, I told you it's open chest to the sun, 20 minutes is the recommended amount of vitamin D to help with depression, to just help with cell
Right.
bone strength and all these things. But then if you can't go in the sun, what is your alternative?
My alternative is I do try when if I do if I definitely have to go out in the sun, I definitely put sunscreen on at least 20 to 30 minutes before going out, because I cannot go out into the sun without anything on my skin, or I will definitely have a flare, and it will not take long for it to happen for me. And that flare for me could go from a malar rash on my face to my body breaking out in hives. Literally, it's like itchy and it's
Yeah.
horrible, and the joint pain. So it's kind of a big deal, and that's going to warrant me having to go to the doctor and get some steroids and some steroid cream, and it's not worth it. Not if I'm going to have to go through all of that, because I actually don't take prednisone. I haven't taken prednisone in years, but when I do flare like to that magnitude, because I have a history of having kidney involvement, they try to address it immediately so it doesn't spread into lupus attacking other major organs in my body. I can deal with some irritation of the skin a little bit, but let me be clear. When my skin breaks out in hives, that is painful. It
Yeah.
itches and it burns. It feels like it's on fire, if that
Okay,
makes
so
sense.
I got so stressed out a couple weeks ago. I got hives so badly that I got like this red spot on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was like a welt, and I've had it for like 3 weeks. I tried to use the steroid on it to shrink it. I used the butterfly nectar. Like it's there. I'm almost like, do I have this for life now? And I think that like when you're going through an autoimmune disease and you're trying to navigate not only your diet, but you're trying to navigate your medication, and then you're trying to navigate what's going on with your skin, it's extremely overwhelming, to say the least. And I think that the one thing that we can do is obviously what we talk about all the time, self-care, obviously,
Yeah.
but doing some sort of a food journal, like just to see, like my tongue was super itchy the other day. I'm like, it's tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I really, really recommend to anyone going through any kind of autoimmune condition is, okay, we're all across the net, like doing ancestry tests, but there is a new test that just came out, and it's for food sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
And I highly recommend it. You can find it in your local grocery store. I highly, highly recommend this. The reason why, I bet you have no idea what you're allergic to. We eat so many things in the course of a week, and we have this and we have that happens. We get bloated. We have a skin reaction. And at the end of the day, we don't know what the hell we ate. Like we don't know. So we're going to be coming out with a food journal with Lupus Glitter, and I will invite all you guys to check that out.
I love that.
It's really important because you can look back at, like, not everything just is an immediate reaction in your body. It's not an immediate flare like the sun. If you look back, a lot of times there's something in there that you're just like, oh, magnifying glass, like that's questionable.
Absolutely, because what you said, I mean, when I was diagnosed with lupus in my 20s, I heard my doctor and I didn't hear him. I'm just going to be honest, because he just was like, you got to cut out this, you got to cut out salt, you got to cut out this. So it just sounded like when he talked so long, so I'd zoned out. I'll be honest, I completely zoned out. I was just like, okay, so I'm not going to eat anything. I'm just going to be a size 0 then.
Right.
What am I really going to eat then? So, he was like, you're not going to have to, you can't eat this, you can't eat. But he didn't give me anything that I could eat. So I was just like, man, go away.
So what are the main things that you've needed to eliminate in your diet?
For me, sugar, starches. I'm not going to say that I do not eat sweets, but I do. But I don't do it as much as I did before, because I did notice that my ankles would swell. I noticed that, and it could be because lupus was attacking my kidneys. Like I have to consider that too, because one of the things when it's aggressive and it's attacking your kidneys, you do have a lot of swelling. There was lots of inflammation. Like I had pounds of liquid weight that was basically fluid over my body.
Wow.
So I noticed that triggers. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to get the weight off, if I'm going to get rid of some of the inflammation, I have to adjust what I eat. That's what I'm going to do. So I did start drinking more water, and I started exercising and just.
Well, and then you're also fighting prednisone, which prednisone, you guys, if you're not familiar with that, which most people in the lupus community are, It's a
Yeah.
steroid to really just help heal your body fast, but there's
Yeah.
so many effects with it. It like can deteriorate your bones, it can deteriorate your teeth, it can give you a temper. Like you guys, at the end of the day, it is a steroid. And I
Yeah.
totally respect Libra's decision to not really take it. And I totally respect other people going through lupus that thrive off of it and they can't live without it. So it's really just listening to your body with food, listening to how you're reacting with medicine. And that was one of the other things that we wanted to talk about this segment was like Delibra has been like in the doctor a lot this week, and she has been advocating for herself. And tell us a little bit about that, because it's pretty strong, it's pretty courageous, and it's pretty amazing.
So I do Benlysta or infusions to treat lupus. And
Yeah.
when I was at my doctor's office, my blood pressure it went crazy. That's my term that I'm going to use. It was double digits for both numbers. And so the nurses were panicking, and so they were like, "We're going to have to call your doctor." And I'm still trying to remain calm, and I was like, "Okay, well, go ahead and call the doctor." I'm looking at it. So there's like, "We're going to check it again." I was like, "Okay, you can check it again in the other arm. Apparently it must be high. So it's not going to change, but I'm sick of this. You putting this machine on me. Just go ahead and call the doctor and see if the doctor will, give me some, because when I'm having infusion, I'm actually in the actual hospital. It's just a separate part of the hospital, a certain floor that they do infusions." And so they were like, "Well, we might have to keep you. We might have to." I was like, "No, you're not going to admit me. You're not." So my doctor came and they did give me some blood pressure medicine. And so I'm just going to be honest. When I went home, I decided to go ahead and get the prescription filled. But in the back of my mind, it was just like, I'm just not adding any more medicine. I'm just not. And so I started doing my own research. I took it that night, the first night, because my blood pressure was still elevated. It was extreme. And part of that, I think, was I started getting anxious because the last time I was in that hospital, I was in ICU on a ventilator. And so even the idea of being hospitalized in that hospital was just like a no for me. And so they were like, "Well, if we can't
You
get it
already
down."
knew what was about to go down, and you had to fight for yourself. And that was the
Yeah,
moment that you were in. It was like, okay, I care about my health, but I also care about me. And I know what this looks like right now with your lack of education. So this is what's going to happen. And these are my boundaries. And
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I told them they were not going to keep me in there. So if they needed to give me a blood pressure medicine to lower my blood pressure, go ahead and call the doctor and go ahead and give it to me while I'm there. And if I need to call a family member because it's something that's going to make me sleepy, that's fine too. I can have someone to come and pick me up and drive me home. That's fine. I have a daughter. So she can come and pick me up or my auntie or someone. And so they said, okay. My doctor came and she wrote a prescription for new blood pressure medicine. She was like, "Well, you take it and take your blood pressure, daily and see how it does, whatever." I said, "Okay, cool, whatever." So I left and I took the blood pressure that night and I took the pill and I checked my blood pressure. But immediately after took the blood pressure medicine, I just didn't feel good. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. And so
yeah,
I started doing my own research, and honestly,
her body like immediately reacted to this. No matter what the doctors say, you guys remember in the textbooks, we are not a studied science. We are 2 pages in their textbooks, and the only thing that they know about lupus is what they've actually encountered. So you've gone through your experience, whether it's been 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, you've gone through your
right.
experience. You do your food diary. You've gone through the doctors, and probably many of you have gone through most and many different types of doctors. You know what's not okay and what's okay. And
Yeah,
that's
I
why we're
mean,
bringing into the newly diagnosed, because it's going to be a journey, and it's a beautiful journey. But you definitely need to like do your own studies about what happens when with your body, or they will just do whatever they want.
absolutely. Because when I was newly diagnosed, I felt like they was just like, "Take this, take that, take this, take this, take this."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Well, how long am I going to have to take this?"
Load you up, Buttercup.
Yeah, it's like indefinitely. You're going to have to take this. I mean, because in the beginning, I think and this is the guy and this truth, and I'm not the only one. I probably went home and my 20s were like 40 pills to take. And I'm just like, you gotta
Yeah,
be
it's
kidding me.
ridiculous.
I'm not
And
gonna
they
take
don't
all of
know. They're
this.
just like, just take it all. Just take it all because we haven't done and put enough money into the research to really know what you need. And it's such a fingerprint disease, and you have so many different, everybody has a different rash, everybody has a different internal organ that is affected. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
like, let's just like cover all of our bases like an insurance policy, and you can pay a $300 premium per month, and you're only going to benefit for this much. And that's why we really advocate the food journals. We really advocate seeing the results that you've taken and doing a journal about the medications you've taken, because you have to be your own advocate at the end of the day. Like, they don't care. They will just broad
Absolutely.
spectrum everything because they don't want to research. And it's pitiful, to be honest, but that's where we're at in the state of the world. And that is why we fight so hard for more lupus research for this disease that is a fingerprint disease that is so different in every single person. And when it's 2 pages of the doctor's book and they don't challenge themselves to do further studies, and they only know like the maybe 3 cases that they've had, you definitely need to take your own notes, their crib notes. You have to, because this is you and you deserve the best.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that because it's been situations, to be honest with you, I think my medical history, the students studied it because when I meet
Good.
new student, I mean it was a lot. And they're like, you actually experienced this. You really lived through that? I was like, yeah, I really did. I experienced all of that, everything that you've read.
Yep.
And they want to ask questions, and it's just like, okay, I'll answer some of your questions because maybe it'll help you with somebody who you meet in the future. So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely experienced a lot. I mean, everything that you've read is true. I mean, this is not fake or fiction. It's
Right.
real life. I lived it. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm still living through it because there were so many scenarios where those people, the doctors were just exhausted. They didn't really know what to do with me. I mean, I was in the hospital with blood clots and fluid filling my body, and my kidneys were shutting down, and they could not figure out how to really get rid of the fluid because it kept coming back. And it was just like, I told the doctors, I'm like, I'm going home. And I do not mean like going to heaven or anything like that. I mean, at some point, I believe that
Going
there is
home.
a heaven and I will go, but I wasn't going to heaven. I was just going to go home to my bed and sleep in my own bed.
Yeah.
And they were just looking at me like, do you understand? I said, I understand. You told me that you don't know what else to do with me. I mean, I'm not going to keep letting you put tubes in me and stick me with
I'm not your
needles.
I'm not your science experiment. I'm not your guinea pig. Like, but at the same time, like when you meet these doctors, you almost feel like not bad for them, but you have a level of empathy because you realize that they just haven't been educated and they haven't had the experience and they
Yeah.
haven't tapped into it. So
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
girl, I think you need to write a book. I
I'm,
really think that you need to write a book
I'm
about
really
all your
thinking about it.
experiences with lupus and
I'm,
with other women.
I'm really thinking about it. It's been in my heart, but it's been so much other stuff. But I'm definitely thinking about it because when you said that, I thought about when I was in the hospital, I had a doctor for everything imaginable. I
Mhm.
had my
Well,
rheumatologist for
you're
lupus,
practically a doctor
my
yourself.
cardiologist.
You've been studying how many years? How many years have you been studying lupus compared to these doctors? Like, let's just put that out there. Like, you should
Yeah,
be the one
we're
that's
almost at
doing.
7. It'll be 17 in January. So I've had I've seen almost
Compared to a
every doctor.
2-month study, you guys,
Mhm.
17 years of studying her own lupus compared to a doctor who has had 2 pages in a book and possibly encountered 3 people, if he's lucky, that have had lupus, whether unless he like actually like has been given that on his life path or he's studied that, he's probably encountered about 4 lupus patients. So let's be real about that fact right now. You know more than the doctors do about lupus just through having it and experiencing it. So yes, you should absolutely write a book. And the doctors should all read it because they don't want
It's
to put money into our research. They want to put it in cancer. So let's just throw that out there because cancer is more commercialized. It's more, okay, pink, October, but like, what about everything else? Like, studying is essential as a doctor. And, this is where our hands are tied and we have to take our advocacy into our own hands, period.
Absolutely,
So
because that was
butterfly cheers to that, Delibra. I'm proud of you as a human. I feel like you have studied the condition. I feel like you have done your due diligence. You practice self-care and you educate the autoimmune community. So cheers to you, Delibra.
I love you. And absolutely, because those people were crazy. Not to
All right,
call
you
the
guys.
doctors crazy, but yeah.
So we're gonna turn
definitely.
this over. We're gonna turn this over a little bit. Like we're always gonna have like little hiccups that come, and we're gonna have different conversations that we're struck into as women, and we're always gonna go with the flow, and we're always gonna be super raw with you guys. So right now, I kind of want to turn this over to talk about Emmett Henderson.
Okay.
And he is the administrator of Lupus Glitter, and he desperately needs a kidney transplant right now. So I have dedicated my life in the last 3 days to just try to start a movement on Facebook, on Instagram, with hashtag Find Emmett a Kidney. So most of you guys know who Emmett Henderson is, but maybe some of you are just tuning in, whether it's through YouTube or like someone shared this video with you and maybe you're newly diagnosed and you don't know the community. But I will tell you that Emmett Henderson actually is the first male in history to climb Mount Tanzania in Africa for the lupus community, to start a complete nonprofit for males because males are only 10%. This is basically an African American female disease. So I believe that Caucasian women are about 7%, and then males are about 10%. So he made an entire movement to bring men awareness, education, a support group. He inspired me because I was a makeup artist for all this time who had specialized in lupus after my stepmom passed away for the butterfly rash. We did a talk show one day and he was like, all right, well, the butterfly's sitting on the counter. Can we get a wolf? And so he runs the whole wolf movement for men because they're called the wolf rash. We're the butterfly rash. And we went down there in San Diego last week. We launched the male version inspired by Emmett. He climbed Mount. So we've had a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys, and that is life. And that's why my tattoo right here, you guys, is the yin and the yang. It's the good and the bad will always run parallel, dear butterfly. So now talking about a little bit of the darkness and the light, he went up and climbed Mount Tanzania, Africa. And this whole trip was sponsored, like the trip of a lifetime, right, you guys? Like he climbed, he stayed in the camps. He ended up having a lot of fluid in his lungs and getting rushed down by ambulance. There were a lot of things, which you'll see a couple interviews back about his journey with that, and his girlfriend that really supports him, and the event that we did to launch the male skincare in his honor. However, he's in desperate need of a kidney transplant right now. His brother gave him the first one over kidney beans on Christmas as a surprise, which he never asked for, and he had it for 9 years. However, when he reached the top peaks of the mountain, not the tip top, but he was reaching the peaks, this came in and this is what happened. So all we want to do is to find him a kidney because he has lifted up an entire community that would have never been seen in all of history without this world changer, philanthropist, and humanitarian. So today, we have started a movement, which is hashtag Find Emmett a Kidney, and his blood type is B positive and B negative. And we've had many sponsors throughout this journey, and one of them that I want to mention is Phoenix Candles. So she created this for our Halloween special, and how beautiful is this, you guys?
Oh, that's cool.
A Halloween moon candle, and she let me pick all the pictures, and I picked this one. She had a skull one, and she loves skulls, but I was like, it kind of looks like a dead moth or death moth, like from Silence of the Lambs. But I really like this moon fairy butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just tell you, the scent is amazing. And she is going to give us a huge discount for anyone that wants this candle and to just kind of support the community. You get 10% off, and it's through Phoenix Candles, which I'll put the link below. And it's Butterfly 22. So she stands behind our cause as a woman that is going through many journeys with having bone cancer, and she's done all of her own activism, but she is supporting ours, and forever she will be friendship bracelet best friend for that. I would also really like to thank One Touch Stuck in a Moment Photography, who donated bracelets for us. And let me make sure I get this super pretty for you guys in the way it's supposed to be. So you guys know I'm all about my butterfly bangle bracelets. I wear them as a makeup artist throughout the city of Las Vegas. I love them so much. This one in particular, it has a ghost, a witch hat, a butterfly, a spider web, a bat. So I just want to thank our sponsors, and I also want to just say, you guys, we're really excited about the work that we're doing in the lupus community, bringing them anti-inflammatory recipes, bringing them skincare to heal the rash, getting letters across the globe, and the newest movement that we're doing, and you can follow us, is hashtag Find Emmett a Kidney. And so we were able to reach out through one voice, and that's all it takes. And someone else answered back and had this amazing idea that we should put stickers on our car with Emmett and his blood type and just drive through all of our cities, Atlanta, New York, California, Las Vegas, and find this man a kidney transplant. So that is our newest movement that we've created. We're trying to bring you guys really good anti-inflammatory ingredients, recipes, tips and tricks, warrior story shares, and we will open up for comments throughout the next week on this video. So I thank you guys so much for joining in Butterfly Tea Time. We'll be answering your guys' comments all week and developing the next show off of this, which we'll be doing part 2. Until next time, fly free, hashtag Emmett needs a kidney, and watch this commercial about the first skincare to ever treat the butterfly rash, and now the wolf rash.
Pretty baby, pretty baby. I've been waiting for so long, girl, yeah, to be with you alone, girl, yeah, yeah. Move your back against the wall, girl. Don't be afraid, won't let you fall, girl, no, no. You don't have to feel the pressure. We got all the night, no stress, girl. I will make you scream.
Time, fly free.